This is Mind Over Money presented by Waymaker. Today we're talking about investing and we're going to draw some simple lessons from legendary investor Warren Buffett. Stick around for this conversation.
Legendary investor, Archie Franz.
No. Warren's the legendary investor.
Hey guys. Hey Archie. Tim.
G'day Lachlan. G'day Tim.
Hi.
Since we're talking about investing today, Tim, I'm just going to, throw it out to you. When we say investing, what's your first thoughts?
Yeah, I guess kind of two little sides to it, but the one side is risky. I don't like to get involved with things that I don't fully understand, which is things like crypto and stay away, or it's just like, okay, blue chips, buy the stocks. Or the other side is index funds, ETFs, slow, long term, set and forget, like not jumping around with strategies, but stick to one thing. And that's probably, the side that resonates with me the most. Maybe that's a personality thing or something with that. But when I there's still a lot that I don't understand with the investing world.
Yep. And Lachlan, what's your first thoughts when we mention investing?
I think about tax headaches. Got to calculate what your return is and all that stuff. I hear people say, go for the blue chip stocks, sit on them. Or, people will say stuff like go for high dividends or you just got to buy lots of investment properties. I also see people say that their investment is going to be a long-term thing, but then a couple months later, they're telling me, it's a good time to pull out and sell. And it's like, hang on a sec. This is a long-term investment. Lots of assumptions that I can see around investing and a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
But it's something, I feel like it's something we all love to talk about. And like you said before, Tim, a lot of us don't really understand what investing is. I guess that's why we're talking about it today, right?
Yeah.
What about you, Archie?
Yeah, for me, the common thing I hear is, like Tim said, risky, don't understand it. Some people say, I want to invest for my kids' education. Straight away, I see a problem with that because, the kids are going to need education very quickly and investing isn't quick. It's long-term. People say, I don't want to lose my money. But the problem is if we don't do anything, we actually lose our money anyway. Other stuff pops up like redrawing from the home loan and it's free money. That one always blows me away. Taking money back out of an investment property by refinancing and again, people thinking that's investing. And also there's these assumptions around that, investing is getting someone else to pay for something. And then it's not actually coming out of your cash flow. So whereas I know, investing is about, you got to have money coming out of your cash flow. You got to pay for it. And to have good investments, you got to have skin in the game. That means, you got to know what's going on.
I think people want the benefits of investing without the cost of investing. So you're right. It's not free cash flow. You've got to consistently put in the work to get the long-term results from it. It's funny when you said investment property. I just remembered I know someone who bought an investment property, refinanced and bought a car with the equity. I was just thinking that's the fastest way to kill an investment property return is by taking money out and buying a car.
Yeah, you're saying a car's not an investment, Lachy.
Unless you're driving on Top Gear.
Yeah. Oh, look, the worst one I see is actually selling the investment property and then buying a car. Or going on a holiday, because that's again not long-term investing. It's not really generating anything.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a lot of noise around investing, and I guess the questions that come to mind is who do you believe and what do you believe about investing? That's going to determine how you approach this topic, but also figuring out what's best for your situation. Because look, we're all living very different lives, and we have some things in common, but we do all have different goals and aspirations and strategies in life. And so we do need to find a strategy when we come to investing that's going to work for us. I guess the thing, Archie, would you agree that the common thing around investing is that we all need income throughout our life? And is that the goal to investing, is to create that income?
Yeah, I'd probably say the big goal of investing is get out of the debt cycle. It's what will help you get out of the debt cycle and start to own your own income. So whether that income's coming in off of a wage or out of a business, or or coming from the investments, you want to own that income. So you don't want to see the income turn up in your bank account and then go straight back out paying a whole pile of bills and debt. The goal here is that that money, that income turns up in your bank account and it's yours, and you get to choose what you do with it. That's the ultimate goal. And so that could be that the money's there for the kids' education. It could be that the money's there for retirement, for holidays. Again, you get to choose what it's for.
Yeah. So Archie, what are some of the keys to investing so that we can own our own income?
So I got to ask this question quickly, Tim. Does that make sense about owning your own income?
Yeah, I guess in my mind, that's it's not going to bills, to rent, to other people, but it's going to, at some point, things that obviously even paying the mortgage. Like if the bank owns 95% of your home, the bank owns 95% of your home. So yeah, for me, that means I can direct where that's going to go and what that's going to be used for.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, just wanted to clarify that. Yeah, that was making sense. Okay,
that's
cool.
good. That's good. That makes me excited.
Yeah. Oh yeah, look, I just remember, when I was young and paycheck turned up and then it disappeared straight away. I was just like, this is a horrible way to live. It's like, so, and I really want to start to see my paycheck being able to have a choice over what happened to it. And that's common, when we're young and we first start out, it's very easy for our paycheck to be owned by everyone but us. And so what we're talking about here is, how do we get out of that cycle? How do we break that cycle where everyone else owns our paycheck? And so the first one is, let's start now and don't ever stop. So if you're 15, start now and don't ever stop. If you're 20, start now and don't ever stop. If you're 40, start now and don't ever stop. It doesn't matter what your age is, just get into it.
We were talking about Warren Buffett before, and it's funny, the more we talk about him, we realize that this guy is a legendary investor. And there's been so many books written about him. People love to quote him. But really his advice is quite simple. It's just to keep investing and don't quit. And I remember reading about Warren, and over 97% of Warren Buffett's wealth has actually been accumulated after the age of 65. So there's been this humongous compounding effect in Warren's life. And his secret really has been that he's been investing for 75 years. So he hasn't quit.
Yeah, wow.
He started like back when he was 11 years old.
Yeah. And it was 50 years after he started investing before anyone took any notice of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he is the classic, and I hear people say to me, like, oh, when I retire, I'm just going to take my super and go spend it, and you go, oh, hang on, like you're gonna take what you've got in your super and go spend it. It's gone in 12 months, 2 years, whereas you could continue that on for the rest of your life and turn that same super amount into like 2 million, 3 million, 6 million in income over your retirement. But people are prepared to just take that little bit of money that they've got in their super and just spend it. And they totally don't understand how much money they're missing out on when they do that. So that's why we say start now, don't ever stop, because if you stop, you lose all that compounding. You lose a whole pile of income that would have been yours for no effort. So that's why you don't stop. And that's why Warren Buffett never stopped.
I don't think he has plans to stop either.
No. I guess the big question would be then, where do you start? Or is too little? Is $10 too little? Is what amount is too little? And where do you begin the journey?
Well, I think if you go long term, it doesn't have to be a lot of money. That's the thing. I remember, Archie, you showed me examples of this when we looked at through our cash flow tools and our wealth tool at Waymaker. You can look at contributions over time, and the longer you invest, you don't need as many contributions because time is on your side. But if you're trying to invest in a rush, you need higher contributions because you've got less time on your side.
Absolutely, yeah. When we're talking to someone that's 20 years of age, the contributions might be $50 a week to achieve a certain result throughout their lifetime. But if someone's starting in their 50s to try and achieve the same result, they've got to contribute $100,000 a year.
Wow.
To achieve the same result. Yeah. So starting early, get the actual investments doing the work for you. That's the key. Yeah.
So I guess the next question is the next point is, okay, start now. I want to start now. What do I do? And I guess point 2 is to have a strategy. Yeah.
So the classic is if you're 20, still studying, right? You got a bit of a part-time job. You might be earning $10,000 a year or something to keep you going. The super system allows you to make some extra contributions. The government will then kick in some extra contributions. The government will also pay back any tax on your super. So putting in just $500 to $1,000 into your super while you're studying each year can add another $1,000 to your super from government benefits. And the earlier you start, the better. But that $2,000 that you're putting into your super through the government benefits and through what you're putting in, it doesn't look like much. It doesn't feel like much. But compounding over your lifetime, that'll turn into millions. So these are the sort of things of like, this is where you want to have a strategy and figure out, what's going to make you the most, with what you've got right now, what's going to take you ahead.
Yeah, great. So how do you set up a strategy that's suitable for your own situation?
Yeah. So the sort of things we've got to take into consideration here, we're going to have to get a bit technical, is you got to look at the liquidity of the investment you're going to go into. So how liquid is it? Is it going to be tied up that, I never get anything out of it? Or is it going to be available to me to help me get out of my debt cycle down the track, where I can actually use it to pay for cars and make sure that, I'm not living on debt.
So yeah, just meaning you can turn it back into usable cash easily.
Yes. Yep. That's it. And when does it need to be liquid? That's the whole thing about looking at liquidity, is when does it need to be liquid? Then you got to look at your long-term returns. And the reason we say long-term returns is if you chase short-term returns, you say chase 20% return this financial year, like this year. If you're chasing a 20% return, you're taking massive risk. And you actually you've moved from investing to gambling. so we want to look at long-term returns. This year if I earn 1%, does it matter? No. As long as my long-term return is somewhere up around 8 to 10%, I can see massive returns on my money. And when we say long-term return, we're looking over 5-7 years, up to 40 years. We want to see that long-term return is consistently coming through. So if we look at share markets, which is companies in Australia or overseas, we tend to see those returns of 10, 12% long-term.
Okay.
But, this year it might be down 20%. Next year it might be up 20%. We don't know what the returns will actually be, but we know that the long term, over 7 years, we're getting up around 8, 10%. Over 10 years, we're getting up around 12%. That's a key.
And then I guess how you go about getting those returns is going to determine the standard deviation, right?
Yeah. Yep. So standard deviation is measuring the difference between your levels of returns over a time period. So if we're going between, say, negative 60% to positive 60%, that's going to be a really big standard deviation. It's probably going to be up over 30% standard deviation. Yep.
Yeah.
So to get those really good long-term returns, we need a standard deviation down around 10%. And for most of our listeners, they probably don't know what standard deviation is. So maybe you need to have a look at Google. But the thing here is with standard deviation is the smaller you can keep that standard deviation, the better your long-term returns are. And it eliminates risk. So you go from gambling to actually investing.
Yeah, that's great. So what on strategy? What's the opposite? What is not an investment strategy? So like maybe that'll help just clarify some things, because obviously some things that we can do in life that seem like investment strategies, but maybe they're not. Any thoughts around that?
Yeah. They're definitely not tax structures. So quite often I see, when we're talking about noise, I quite often see tax structures being sold as an investment. That this is going to, put all this money back in your pocket and it's going to make you all this money. A tax structure is just there to manage tax or even manage risk to a degree, depending on your circumstances. And often they'll be promoted by accountants, for specific reasons. So the key here is don't get that confused with your actual investment strategy. So a tax structure can be important and can be very effective for managing tax, but it's not an investment.
Yeah, there's a lot of schemes out there, and they usually are linked to saving tax.
Yeah.
Or building free money through property, but that's often too good to be true. Yeah. So, yeah, keep an eye out for those ads. Yeah. Now that we've talked about them and your phone's listening, you'll probably get ads for them now. That's what I found lately. My phone's listening to the podcast, and then I'm going to get a Facebook ad.
Yep. Yeah. I get everything thrown at me because of what we talk about.
Yeah.
And phone calls. I got people ringing me up going, "Oh, we have this great opportunity for you." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay. See ya." I had one ring me yesterday. Yeah. Look, one of the other key things too is you got to know, you got to be putting cash in, right? So investments take money. So like in Warren Buffett's case, he took money that he had and he invested it. He put it into a strategy. In his case, he was buying shares in companies.
And he reinvested the returns back into his investments.
Yeah. And that is one of the keys, is you don't take the income unless it's specifically part of your strategy. Your income always gets reinvested. So that is one key part of strategy. And that's where it can be quite difficult when you're looking at, say, an investment property strategy, is that you're actually taking that income to pay for debt. So that income is not getting reinvested, and it's got to pay for the running costs of the property. And often people think, that income is benefiting them. But the problem with property investing is, the income is not getting reinvested. It's getting used to manage the cost of that property. And then if you start to invest in individual companies, and buy shares in companies, or, we call them shares in Australia, Americans call them stocks, they usually pay dividends. And so you're going to have all these dividends turn up. So that can easily be lost in your cash flow system, and you spend it. So you're not going to see your multiplication effect because you've lost that income. You've lost part of your return. And easily you can see your returns drop from, say, 10, 12% right back down to like 3% because you've gone and spent the dividend. So these are all the things you've got to watch with your strategy. But it's definitely got to cost you something. And the key part there is know your cash flow, and find that surplus money to be putting into a strategy that's going to work in your situation.
I guess you have to really engage with someone, to develop that strategy, because this stuff is not transactional. If you want a good strategy that's going to work for you, you've got to find someone that can work with you to make that strategy. And I know, Archie, seeing you as a financial planner work with people, it's not about you being the guru. It's about you helping people actually work through their situation to see what strategy is going to work for them and their cash flow and their goals. So taking into effect everything we just talked about there, what are they investing in? What are they investing for? What's the liquidity, the long-term return, the standard deviation? How much cash flow do they have to invest? Because if you're not investing regularly, then there's no point. If it's a once-off thing, you're not going to achieve the results you want. You're not going to break the debt cycle over your lifetime and actually own your income like we talked about and create those long-term income streams. So we've got to work with someone. Yeah,
absolutely. The stats actually show us that 20% of people will try and do it themselves. The stats also show us about 5% of Australians will succeed. So they're not great stats. And generally those 5% that succeed have got someone helping them. They've generally got wealth partners who are actually helping them achieve their strategies. But we do know that 20% of people are going to try and do things themselves. So there's still 80% of the Australian population who don't know what to do and who really should be getting some help. So there's a lot of Australians that need help. Yeah.
We'll be back in just a bit.
So Archie, the first key was start now and don't ever stop. And the second key was to have a strategy. What would be the third key that we can think about to investing over a lifetime and own your own money?
Yeah. Third one is be patient. So commonly people will say to me after they've been working for 5 years, oh, there's nothing in my super's a waste of time. And because they're looking at, a small balance that might be 20,000 or 50,000 there, and they think it's not going to do anything. But what they're not recognizing is that super, or that amount of money that's in super, that investment money, there's still going to be more contributions going in as they keep working. And it's going to continue to grow, especially if you're getting a really good rate of return on it. If you're actively investing it to get a good return, then you're going to see millions of dollars in your super by the time you hit age 60. So this is where we say you've got to be patient and you've got to start to analyze, where am I actually heading to? What's this going to turn into? And that's where a lot of people don't see that and don't have any calculations on that. So it's very easy to become impatient and think that it's not worth it. And, people will say, I should have access to that so I can buy a house. I'd be better off buying a house. Well, a house is not an investment. A house just stops you paying rent. So it just gives you ownership of your cash flow again, of your income. So, by owning a house and paying it off, you own your income again, but it doesn't actually earn you any money as such. Whereas investments are actually earning you money, putting income back in your pocket, allowing you to, live the lifestyle that you want to live. So when people say to me, that they want investments, to pay for their kids' education, I know that's not going to work because there's not enough time for those investments to grow and to provide the income that's going to be needed for a child's education. But what they could be doing is doing a whole different strategy whereby they're getting their house paid off really quick and then freeing up their cash flow to then pay for their kids' education.
Right.
Yeah. So we go back to strategy again. And, and while we're paying that house off, how are we investing? Where are we going to be coming up with the investments? So again, we need a good strategy there to make that work.
That's great. Yeah.
And then, to get out of the debt cycle, especially around cars, because the stats show us that many Australians aren't paying cash for cars. They're using a car loan. And so those car loans, if we turn them into an investment, so this is how we can talk about affordability. So if you take a normal car loan that's costing you $600 to $800 a month to pay off that car, if you took that same money and invested it, within 7 years, you can be paying cash for your car. And then the investment's going to keep growing and you're going to keep putting your money in. And you're going to have the money for the next car after that and the next car after that. And you get 30, 40 years down the track and you've got $1 million in your investment and you've been paying for your cars.
We call that one the $1 million car.
Yeah, we do. Yep. The $1 million car investment. Otherwise, people think they're going to buy a car for $1 million.
But also the cost of the car comes down as well.
Yeah.
The actual cost of buying. So the cost of buying a $30,000 car might only cost you $20,000 because instead of you paying interest for the car, the investment is paying you income.
That's right.
A return.
Yeah.
So you're flipping it. And I guess that's what I think about when I think about investing. And you go, how does that tie in with owning your income? What does it got to do with the debt cycle? This is what we mean, is when you start investing over long term, just like the banks lend out money and create profit off that, just like companies lend out money and create profit, or car companies that do debt, we're investing our money and creating a profit. But for us, we're keeping it. And that's the power of getting out of debt, but then actually creating a vehicle that creates income for us. We're sharing in the benefits of what these businesses are doing. These companies are creating growth and income, and we get to share in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Tim, so looking at your situation, Tim, could you see yourself driving the same car you've got right now for the next 7 years, but putting what would have been paid, in a car loan into an investment? Could you see yourself doing that?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got to just take care of the car I got now, my little Mazda 3.
Yep.
Just get it serviced regularly and it'll last 7 years, no worries. But yeah, no, I love that strategy.
Yep. And look, we've got people that have been doing this strategy with us for a long time, and we know it works. It's got the runs on the board. And you can't get the smiles off people's faces when they see how this strategy works, but that's about being patient. You got to get that 5 years down the track to actually see the strategy work. And the hardest thing is to start,
So I guess that all comes down to being patient, understanding the strategy, and maybe not comparing, not looking around on Instagram.
Yeah,
your friend in their Tesla with their 70 grand debt, and just managing that.
You know what would be really good is if we had a big neon sign on top of cars saying actually what debt is owed on those cars.
I like that.
That would help us to understand things a bit more.
Very good.
See someone driving down the road and it's got $100,000 debt on the car. I don't actually own this thing. I just keep paying the bills. Yeah.
Okay, I think to wrap this up, so investing over a lifetime is all about giving us that freedom. It's about getting out of the debt cycle, creating an income stream that's going to give us income throughout life and help us own our income. So to summarize those 3 points again, guys, it was start now and don't ever stop.
Yep.
Second point was to have a strategy. So engage with someone, a professional, to create a strategy. We can't create a strategy where this is not personal financial advice. So you got to work with someone to actually create a strategy that's going to work for you. And the third key there is to be patient. And yeah, I think Warren Buffett really sums up those three. I think that's why he's a legend.
Yeah.
He keeps going. He's got his strategy and he's patient.
One last thing on that being patient is, keeping to a lifestyle, that meets your strategies and meets your requirements to be able to keep investing. So, we have a tool at Waymaker that allows you to actually track all that. And so that was one thing about Warren Buffett. He never changed his lifestyle. Even though his income went up, Warren still lived in the same house, drove the same car, ate the same ice creams, lived the same lifestyle that he started with. Yeah.
He probably should have changed some of his eating habits, though. He still goes to McDonald's.
That's true.
Yeah.
Still drink Coca-Cola. Okay, we're not saying he's a legendary health expert, but he is a legendary investor. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think the lifestyle creep is a real danger. Yeah. And if it's eating our cash flow, stopping us from investing, then that's ultimately going to cost us more in the long run. So we've got to keep control of our cash flow and watch that lifestyle creep and watch out for it.
Yeah, that's where it's so important, to keep tracking what you're doing and tracking your finances. It's an absolute key in business. It's an absolute key in personal finances. Is track your cash flow, track what you're doing, track your investments. And keep smiling because, when you know that you're doing well, you just can't stop smiling.
Yeah, you're not worried about researching all these schemes out there and getting pulled into 4 different directions.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we do at Waymaker. We help people track their cash flow. We're really focused in on cash flow at Waymaker. That's the job of an advocate. And when you become a member of Waymaker, you get access to tools to track your cash flow and track these strategies as well, because obviously we're working with wealth partners to actually help you implement these different strategies. But it all comes back to someone that's on your team that can help you keep track of things, because we know that once a strategy gets put in place, it's about sticking with that strategy. But again, like you said, Archie, you got to know that it's working. You got to know that things are working and that you are winning, you're doing well. And that's where you got to be tracking things and have someone there to give you that clarity and look at things with you.
Yeah. Yep. That's it.
And keep being encouraged as you're being patient.
Yep. Encouragement's a key. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, listening to this podcast. And, that itself is an investment of your time into your future wealth and understanding. And we appreciate all of you who tune in, and really hoping that this is going to be useful and helpful for your future and you owning your own finances and having finances that work. We'll see you again soon.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Beautiful.
Thanks for listening. See you guys next week.
Yeah. Thanks, Lachlan. Thanks, Tim. Bye, everyone.
This podcast is for education purposes only and is not financial advice. If you'd like to speak to someone about your personal finances, including your home loan, or to get an investment strategy, head to waymakerpodcast.com.au and you can connect with one of our wealth partners. See ya.